Today, we're diving into Nigeria's Great Tax Reset. This is a plan so big, so ambitious, it's pretty much guaranteed to change the financial world for every single person and business in the country. So, let's get into what's happening, and more importantly, what it all means for you.
And make no mistake, this isn't just some small policy tweak. As This Day Live puts it, this is the beginning of a new chapter. We are talking about a massive shift for the entire economy, a real break from the old way of doing things. So, here's our roadmap for the next few minutes. We're going to start with the big picture, this huge national shakeup. Then, we'll zoom in on Kaduna State to see how it works in the real world. We'll tackle the tricky problem of the informal sector, get our heads around the new e-invoicing rules, and then wrap it all up by looking at what this new tax reality really means for everyday life.
All right, let's kick things off with the big picture. What is actually changing across the entire country?
You'll want to circle January 1st, 2026 on your calendar, because that's when this whole new system goes live. And again, this isn't just a minor adjustment. It's a complete overhaul designed to simplify, modernize, and crucially, unify. A tax system that, let's be honest, has been pretty complicated for a long, long time.
So what does this actually look like? Well, think of it this way. The old way was a messy patchwork. You had all these different tax laws for different things, all managed by the Federal Inland Revenue Service, the FIRES. The new system, it throws all that out. Now you've got one single Consolidated Nigeria Tax Act, or NTA, and it's all run by a brand new body, the Nigeria Revenue Service, or NRS. Simple, right? Okay, a unified system sounds great on paper, for sure. But the real question, the one everyone's asking, is, does this thing actually work on the ground? Can it deliver real results?
Well, to answer that, we don't have to guess. We can look at Kaduna State, a place that's basically been ahead of the curve, already putting these kinds of reforms into practice. So let's start with a baseline. In 2023, Kaduna State's own revenue, what they call internally generated revenue, or IGR, was 62.48 billion naira, a solid number. But just watch what happens next. Boom, the very next year in 2024, with these new ideas in place, that number jumps to 71 billion naira. That's an increase of nearly 9 billion naira in a single year. It just goes to show when these reforms are put in place effectively, they can bring in a lot of new revenue, fast.
So what this really tells us is that while the national plan creates the blueprint, it's how things are handled at the state level that makes or breaks it. But, and this is a big but, even with success stories like Kaduna, there's a massive challenge that pretty much every state is up against.
And that challenge is the informal sector. You know, all the businesses, the market traders, the artisans that kind of operate off the books. It's often called the hard-to-tax challenge, and it's a huge piece of the economic puzzle in Nigeria.
Now, this is where things get really interesting. Some new research out of Kaduna looked into what actually works to get people in the informal sector to pay their taxes. And the answer might surprise you. You'd think the solution is to get tough, right? Crack down? Well, it turns out maybe not.
I mean, just look at the data. It's pretty clear. Using deterrents, penalties, strict enforcement, was found to be statistically not significant. It just didn't really move the needle. So what did work? Incentives, like tax breaks and other kinds of support, and giving people access to professional tax help. The takeaway is pretty clear. Carrots work a lot better than sticks.
So, you've got these incredible insights into human behavior, but how do you actually apply that across a whole country? Well, that's where the technology comes in. The whole national reform is really powered by one thing: the new e-invoicing mandate. So what exactly is e-invoicing? And I really have to be clear here. This is not just about emailing a PDF. It is a mandatory real-time system where every single business invoice has to be created in a specific digital format, and then it gets instantly validated by the new Nigeria Revenue Service. Suddenly, every transaction is visible. So here's how it plays out for, say, a business-to-business deal. A supplier creates an invoice in their system. That invoice gets zapped directly to the NRS. The NRS system checks it, validates it, and applies a digital stamp of approval. Then, and only then, is that official stamped invoice sent on to the buyer. It's all automated, secure, and totally transparent.
And listen, the government is not messing around when it comes to compliance. The penalties are serious. We're talking a 1 million naira penalty for the very first day you fail to connect to the system, and then 10,000 naira for every single day after that. If you try to do a deal outside the system, that's a 200,000 naira fine, plus you have to pay 100% of the tax you owed anyway. The message is crystal clear. You have to get on board.
Okay, we've covered a ton of ground. The national plan, the state-level story, the informal sector, the tech. So let's pull it all together. What does this new tax reality actually mean for you, for your business, for your wallet?
Well, like any big change, there are going to be some major pros and some definite challenges. On the plus side, your tax reporting is going to be way more accurate. Your risk of a painful audit goes way down, and you might even get faster access to loans, since banks can see and verify your income instantly. But on the flip side, the challenges are real. There are going to be higher setup costs to get on the system. There's much less room for creative accounting. And the big one, the government will have real-time oversight of your transactions. At the end of the day, here's the government's big pitch. They're saying that all this extra compliance, all this new revenue, has a clear purpose. It's meant to answer that age-old question, what are we actually getting for our taxes? The promise is that this money will come right back to the people as tangible benefits. We're talking better roads, quality education, and accessible healthcare for everyone. And that really brings us to our final big question. This is a massive, incredibly ambitious project. As Nigeria digitizes every single transaction, creating a level of transparency we've never seen before, will it unlock a new era of prosperity? Or will it just create a whole new set of growing pains for its people and businesses? Only time will tell.